I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, April the 1st, 2014. We begin today with reports in the media of a possible deal between Israel and the Palestinians that would extend peace talks and include the release of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard. There is no official word yet on this reported possible deal. However, Palestinian media and media in Israel, citing various anonymous officials familiar with the ongoing negotiations, are reporting that details have emerged of what it might include. According to the Jerusalem Post, the reported deal would include the release of Pollard before the first Passover Seder, which is Monday, April the 14th, just under 2 weeks away. Also, the continuation of peace negotiations into next year, which includes a commitment from the Palestinians that they won't turn to international organizations for recognition in the interim. Israel's release of the last round of 26 Palestinian security prisoners is also included, as well as Israel's release of an additional 400 Palestinian prisoners, reportedly many of whom would be women and minors, and not those with blood on their hands, meaning that they would not have been involved in terror attacks. The last part of the reported deal would put some restraint on Israeli building in the West Bank. In what is being called a, quote, quiet freeze, the Israeli government wouldn't issue any tenders for new housing in Judea and Samaria, but the freeze would not extend to Jerusalem neighborhoods over the Green Line. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was reportedly informing other key officials of the possible plan today, which would have to get approval from the cabinet. The Times of Israel reports that Palestinian leadership was meeting tonight to discuss the possible plan as well. Again, there is no official word from the U.S. or from Israel on this reported deal. The Times of Israel reports that when U.S. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki was asked about the deal and possible Pollard release, she said Jonathan Pollard was convicted of espionage and is serving his sentence. I do not have any update for you on his status. Ynet reported that White House spokesman Jay Carney had the same response when he was asked about Pollard today. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry left Israel this morning after meeting twice with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu about the status of peace talks. Kerry also reportedly met with Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat. A meeting with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah was reportedly canceled because the meeting with Netanyahu went long. Kerry had to leave the region today to attend a NATO conference in Brussels, but the Associated Press reports that the Secretary of State will return to the region tomorrow and that he will meet with Abbas in Ramallah and then will meet again with Netanyahu in Jerusalem. A Catholic monastery near Beit Shemesh outside of Jerusalem is the latest target of a price tag attack. Offensive anti-American graffiti and vandalism of several vehicles was discovered this morning at the Deir al-Rafat monastery in the Arab village of Beit Jamal. Price tag attacks are thought to be the work of Jewish right-wing extremists randomly targeting Palestinians protesting the Israeli government's policies in the West Bank or in response to Palestinian terror. However, they also target the IDF as well as Christian places of worship. In this case, vandals spray-painted the words "America is Nazi Germany" and price tag "Peace Agreement" on the walls surrounding the monastery. The anti-American sentiment was likely aimed at visiting U.S. Secretary of State Kerry and the U.S.-led peace efforts. Jerusalem police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld said that an investigation into the incident had been opened. Israel's Counterterrorism Bureau issued several travel warnings today ahead of the upcoming Passover holiday. A total of 41 travel warnings were issued, none of them new, but the Bureau stressed that the holiday season can serve as a premise for terror groups to target Israelis and Jews traveling abroad. The warnings forbid visiting known enemy states like Iran and Syria, also to avoid the Sinai, once a popular destination for vacationing Israelis, and that those in the peninsula should leave there immediately. The Bureau added that there was a concrete threat in Arab countries such as Egypt and Jordan, and a concrete and very serious threat in the countries of Algeria, Tunisia, Djibouti, and Mauritania, stressing that Israelis already there should leave as soon as possible. Jewish groups are condemning the 5 anti-Israel resolutions that were passed this past Friday at the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. The World Jewish Congress said the passing of the resolutions, which included calls to boycott Israel, was shameful. World Jewish Congress CEO Robert Singer said the resolutions ultimately will only worsen the lives of Palestinians and set back the cause for peace. B'nai B'rith International also condemned the UNHRC's passing of the anti-Israel resolutions, saying the Council continues to discredit itself with these latest resolutions, as no other country, including unsurpassed human rights abusers Iran, North Korea, and Syria, was subjected to multiple condemnatory motions or to a near total lack of foreign support. The U.S. was the only country to vote against the resolutions. B'nai B'rith also expressed their concern regarding the appointment of a new UN Special Rapporteur on the Palestinian territories to replace Richard Falk next month. As we reported to you, a leading candidate is said to be the co-author of the controversial Goldstone report on Gaza, Christine Chinkin. B'nai B'rith representative to the UN in Geneva, Klaus Netter, told the Council that the post in question is inherently discriminatory, focused on Israeli actions alone. We hope that every effort will be made not to repeat the mistake made in the selection of the last special rapporteur, whose notorious and scandalous bias was an impediment to the pursuit of peace itself. On Friday, the UNHRC decided to delay the vote on Falk's replacement by 1 month. The Antidefamation League expressed their concern yesterday at the silence of political leaders in Quebec after Louise Milou, who is a candidate for the province's National Assembly, alleged that there was a, quote, kosher tax. ADL National Director Abe Foxman said the idea of such a tax is one that is part of a decades-old conspiracy theory, which claims that kosher certification on food labels forces consumers to pay extra for ultimately the financial benefit of religious individuals and institutions. Foxman said the failure of Quebec's political leadership to condemn Milou's overt anti-Semitic and anti-religious slander speaks volumes and has aggravated an already tense atmosphere in which religious minorities feel that their freedoms and rights are being threatened. Milou initially told reporters that she stood by her statements, where she referred to certification for meat certified slaughtered for both Jewish and Muslim certification of kosher and halal as, quote, theft and a, quote, religious tax directly paid to religious institutions. She later said she was sorry if she offended anyone by her remarks, but did not retract them. And staying with the ADL, the organization reported today that the total number of anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. fell by 19% last year, marking one of the lowest levels of incidents reported by the ADL since it began keeping records in 1979. The ADL released its annual audit of anti-Semitic incidents today, showing a total of 751 incidents across the U.S. in 2013, a 19% decline from the 927 reported in 2012. National Director Abe Foxman said the falling number of incidents targeting Jews is another indication of just how far we have come in finding full acceptance in society. He called it a reflection of how much progress our country has made in shunning bigotry and hatred. However, there was also a significant increase shown in the area of violent anti-Semitic assaults. 31 such attacks on Jewish individuals or those perceived as Jewish were reported last year, up from 17 in 2012. Foxman said the high number of violent in-your-face assaults is a sobering reminder that despite the overall decline in anti-Semitic incidents, there is still a subset of Americans who are deeply infected with anti-Semitism and who feel emboldened enough to act out their bigotry. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for Tuesday, April the 1st at 7:30 tonight, it's Jewish NYC with highlights from the Sephardic Festival and Birthright Next fashion show. Then at 8 o'clock, a discussion from the recent AIPAC National Policy Conference in Washington on securing the future of the U.S.-Israel alliance with AIPAC student leaders. Then at 9 o'clock, Chief Rabbi of the Ukraine, Rabbi Yaakov Dov-Belaich, joins Mark Golub to talk about the situation there. That is tonight here on Shalom TV and shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, April the 1st, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.